Hey guys, I'm Coach Olney. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about if Valorant is the next big esport. So let's get into it. So if you're a gamer, by this point you've probably heard of Valorant. It's the most talked about game right now. The beta has been extremely successful, and that's probably why you're watching this video, because you're wondering, is it a game worth putting my time into and trying to get really good at? Well, today I'm going to take you through a completely unbiased look at the game from a former esports head coach to decide what I think of it. So I'm going to start off with one of the biggest mistakes I think Riot and the Valorant team made when launching this game. The best way to explain it is with an example, the music industry. So in the music industry, one of the really popular things to do the last couple of years is to surprise drop an album. I'm not huge into music, so I don't remember the exact album that was the first one to surprise drop. I feel like it was Lemonade by Beyonce, but I could be wrong. Anyway, before that, leading up to an album, there was a huge press run. There were singles ran, the artist was always out, radio station, hyping up the new album, talk show this, talk show that. There was always a huge hype around the album. That's how they did it for a long time. However, what artists started to realize and what labels started to realize was that the longer you hyped up an album, the more people already had developed opinions on the album before they ever heard it. There were critics of an album that they didn't even hear yet. So people, if they had enough time, would decide before the album dropped whether or not they cared, or whether or not they were going to listen, or if they thought it was going to be bad. And they had this mindset already, so that when they listened to the album, they weren't listening to it fresh. They were listening to it through the lens of all the stuff they've been fed over the past couple of months. So what the industry started doing was just surprise dropping albums, because then it built this immense amount of hype, especially with social media. When they surprise dropped an album, Twitter, it would trend, everyone would go crazy because they didn't know about it. So like, oh crap, you have to see that, you have to see that. No one wants to be late to the party. So it was tremendously effective at marketing the album. It doesn't cost anything. It didn't cost a bunch of money to do a huge marketing campaign and press run. And no one went into listening to the album with any sort of biases or judgments or anything, because they didn't know anything about it. And it's been extremely successful. I think you see where I'm going with this. Certain video games have adopted this surprise drop and just see how it goes. Apex Legends kind of did the surprise drop. Fortnite a while back honestly kind of took the world by storm. They didn't do a huge press run of the BR. They just dropped it for free and it went crazy. Valorant took the other direction, and we've known about Valorant for a while. They hyped up Project A when they announced it, and slowly leaked all of these details and information, and then they dropped the name and the trailer. And all of this leading up to it caused a bunch of news articles, influencers, gamers to come out with their opinions on the game before it even launched. So by the time the game did launch, so many people already had this idea of, is it going to be a good game? Is it going to be a bad game? Blah, 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 without ever playing the game. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I think they made. One of the coolest things I think they did was with their Twitch drop, and you get the beta keys off of watching Twitch streams. That was huge, that was brilliant, and that drove insane viewership to all of the Valorant streamers. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was, one of the biggest moments in Twitch history. They killed it. That part of the drop was amazing. They got people super hyped about it. People are still talking about it and getting their keys and stuff. I think that was really cool. So let's get into the actual game and whether or not it's going to be an immensely successful esport title. When it comes to a game and how successful of an esport title it's going to be, unfortunately, the biggest variable right now is not how well it's actually played and perceived, but how much money and energy the publisher is going to put into building the professional scene. That's where Valorant has a very, very high... That's why Valorant at its launch is already a successful esport, because it's made by Riot and they have one of the most advanced ranking systems, if not the best ranking system in the esport world. They have a professional league across the world already. They've already done this, and they built this game with esports in mind. They built their whole company off of esports. So everyone knew at the launch of this game, this was launching as an esport title, to be competitive, to be played in a competitive setting. So no matter what, yes, this is going to be an esport title worth competing in, before we even talk about the gameplay. Now, is it going to be one of the top esports titles in the world? That's where the gameplay and the viewership matters, because viewership is what drives the rankings for top esports titles. All right, so I'm gonna get into the pros of this game as far as it being an esport to play and to watch. The big one is CSGO pros are playing it right now and they're doing really well, which means competitively wise, this game could be very similar to CSGO in the amount of mechanics and skill required to play it at a high level, which in turn makes it a really fun game to play, because anyone that plays this game at home will want to watch it and figure out how these guys are able to play it at such a high level. That's always really cool. When a game, when you have such a simple game that is free to play and anyone can hop on, it's really cool to see it played at a high level, to know that you both have the exact same, you both have the exact same ability to play this game at the same level, but they're playing it a lot better than you. So you want to watch to figure out how or why. So it's got that going for it. The other thing is it's very similar to CSGO in how it's played in the rounds, and a lot of people think CSGO is kind of boring to watch, because if you don't know really what's going on, or if you're not really that invested into the game, it's a pretty slow-paced game, and it really takes a good production to make CSGO fun to watch. I think it's fun to watch. That's just from what I've heard from people that aren't in the scene. Valorant has that same slow-paced gameplay with a bunch of rounds, and it's definitely a little more difficult to watch, but because it's got a little more colors, it's got some animations and things, to the average person, I think it's going to be more exciting to watch than CSGO. And I think that's going to be a good thing when it comes to viewership. With that said, let's talk about the cons of the game. And this one's kind of double-sided, because one of the big cons is the way the game is played. Viewership aside, the game is played relatively slow, and if you're not into that, if you're not into the super competitive scene and you just want a fun game to play, you're not going to play Valorant, like at all. It is a sweaty game. You're going to camp, you're going to sit corners, you're going to hold angles. That's how you play the game. And not everyone / most gamers don't like to play like that. Call of Duty, for example, yes, GBs are fun, competitive matches are fun, their BR mode is really fun, but you kind of just want to run some pubs sometimes. And with Valorant, you don't really have an option to just run a casual pub. It's always going to be a sweaty, try-hard game, and if that's not you, if that's not how you like to play, you're probably going to choose not to pick this game up very often. The second is, I feel like it could have been better. It doesn't seem like a game that came out in 2020. It seems like a very competitive game, which I love. It seems like it would have came out 5 years ago at best. Compared to other games that publishers are putting out for like video game enthusiasts, this game is so far behind. Like, so far behind, okay? The problem there, again, is you're not going to attract the casual video game player, the casual enthusiast to play this game, because it doesn't offer anything new and exciting in terms of graphics or storytelling or gameplay even. It doesn't offer anything new. That's all really important to note, because the esports market and esports viewership is such a tiny fraction of the video game industry as a whole that it's very hard to have a game solely based in the esports market do really well. This might sound hypocritical because the game was released by Riot and League of Legends is pretty much only played by esports enthusiasts, but when League of Legends was launched, it wasn't played by esports enthusiasts. It was played because it was a new and exciting genre of game that involved a lot of strategy and skill, and it was an alternative to like World of Warcraft and other games like that. So it had this whole genre going for it that video game enthusiasts love. Valorant is a first-person shooter. It doesn't have the same appeal that a game like League of Legends had, but they're approaching it the same way as a raw esport FPS, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to draw in the fan base and the players around that type of game. To conclude, I hope you see both sides, the pros and negatives of this game. Like I said, I'm trying to be very unbiased in this video. My personal belief is that it's going to be a pretty popular esport title. Riot's not going to allow it not to be, and if FPS is your game, if you're looking for a new game to play or get into, I would suggest trying it out. Don't go off of reviews. Don't go off of what you heard or read about the game. You need to play it, put in 100 hours into it before you make these bold statements that some people are making. Until then, you just need to try it out. And if it's a game you really like, I promise there is going to be an esports market for it. It's just impossible to say at this point where it's going to rank with all the other esports titles out there. Hope you appreciate this video. If you did, drop a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. It really lets me know that you're enjoying my videos and that you want to support my channel. That's all, nerds. I will see you guys in the next video.